Today we're going to be working on Chapter 3, Lesson 10, Solving Equations Containing Parentheses. First, let's do a little bit of review on the distributive property. Whenever we have a number outside parentheses like we do right here, we know that we multiply that number by every term inside. So I know that we're going to multiply the 5 by the 3, and then we're going to multiply the 5 by the 4m. So I know that 5 times 3 is 15, and 5 times 4m is 20m. And what I'm going to do is simply bring down this plus sign, this addition sign, and we're good. We cannot simplify this any further. Let's try one more. Here we have 3 outside the parentheses, and we're going to use the distributive property. So 3 times k is simply 3k. And then 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. Cannot simplify it any further. That's our answer. So how do we solve an equation with parentheses? The first thing that we're going to need to do is apply the distributive property by multiplying 2 times y, and that's going to give us 2y. And then we're going to need to multiply 2 times 6, and that's going to give us positive 12. We can then simply bring down the 18 on the right side. So now I see that 2y plus 12 is equal to 18. We're now going to need to subtract 12 because we're going to be applying the inverse operation, and we know we always do plus or minus first. So we're going to do take away 12 on the left side, take away 12 on the right, and I know that 12 minus 12 is 0, and 18 minus 12 is 6. So we can then bring down the equal sign, right? So we're just bringing that right down. And we're left with, on the left side, 2y. So I'm just bringing this 2y right over here. So 2y equals 6. We now need to apply the inverse operation, and I know that 2y means 2 times y. Let's divide it out. And if we do it to one side, we've got to do it to the other. And I know that the 2's cancel out, so all that we're left with is y. And it says y equals 6 over 2. I know that 6 divided by 2 is 3, and this is our answer. Let's try another problem. I see negative 4 times b and negative 4 times negative 2 equals negative 12. So let's start at the beginning. Negative 4 times b is negative 4b. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8 equals negative 12. And now I know that we need to get the variable by itself, right? So we're going to apply the inverse operation and subtract 8. And if we subtract it from one side, we've got to subtract it from the other. And I know that 8 minus 8 is, of course, 0. So all we're left with is negative 4b. Negative 4b on the left side is equal to what? Negative 12 minus 8 is negative 20. And so what I'm going to do is apply the inverse operation. To get b by itself, we have to do the opposite of multiplication is division. So negative 4 on the left side divided by negative 4 on the right side. I can see that the negative 4's cancel out, so all that we're left with is b. And negative 20 divided by negative 4 is what? 5. So b equals 5. This is our answer. Here's another problem that we're going to need to solve that contains parentheses, but I don't see a number next to the parentheses. Well, we know that if we have a negative sign in front of the parentheses, what we can do is pop in a 1. And we're going to distribute that negative 1. And so let's get cracking. So I see it's negative 15 equals what? Negative 1 times negative 1x, right? Times negative 1 times positive 10. So negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. And in this case, it's a 1x, or we can just put x. And then we've got negative 1 times 10, and that's going to be negative 10. So here we can read this like 15 equals positive x minus 10. So now what we're going to need to do is get this x by itself. And we're already almost there, so what we need to do now is apply the inverse operation by adding 10 to the right side and adding 10 to the left side. And I know that on the left side, 15 plus 10 is 25. And what is 25 equal to? x. That's all that's left. The 10s cancel out, and 25 is your answer. Here we see negative 5 times s and negative 5 times negative 4 equals to 10. So negative 5 times s is negative 5s, and negative 5 times 4, negative 4 is positive 20 equals what? 10. So now we know we need to either add or subtract on the side with the variable to make sure that we get the variable alone, and I can see it says plus 20. So let's subtract 20, and if we subtract 20 from the left side, we got to subtract it from the right. And 20 minus 20 is what? 0. So all that we're left with is negative 5s equals what? 10 minus 20 is negative 10. And we're almost done, but we got to keep going. I know that negative 5s means negative 5 times s. And so we then need to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. Negative 5 negative 5 divided by negative 5 cancels out. So all that we're left with on the left side is simply s. And if we do it to one side, we got to make sure we do it to the other, right? And we have negative 10 divided by negative 5. And we're going to get a positive 2. So s equals 2. That is our answer. So here we have negative 8 equals 4 times n minus 3. And 4 times n is 4n. And then 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. So 4n minus 12 equals negative 8. And I know that we need to apply the inverse operation, always doing plus or minus first. And I can see that because this is a minus 12, we got to add 12. If we do it to one side, we got to do it to the other. And 12 minus 8 is what? Positive 4. So 4 equals 4n. Simply brought that down, right? So, this looks pretty easy. All we need to do now is divide the left side and the right side by 4 to make sure we can get the n by itself. So the 4's cancel out. And so all we're left with on the right side is n. And 4 divided by 4 is also 1. So this is our answer. N is equal to 1.